Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Clio Talk. My name is Matt,
And I'm RC.
and we have a pretty big story for everyone today. I really know nothing about it. RC's being the one taking the lead on this one to figure out what exactly is going on.
Yeah, this is seeing as this is basically a not breaking but a news story. We're gonna kind of forego our normal kind of news unless you have any topics you want to talk
Oh,
about.
I mean, the only topic I want to talk about is I went to a Royals game.
Oh yeah, how was
Yeah.
that?
It was, it was empty.
Mm-hmm.
It was dollar dog night. I
Hell
pounded glizzies. The Royals nearly got their asses handed to them, and then they crawled back to tie it in the ninth, and then blew it in the 10th.
It was a Bobby Witt grand slam, right?
No, it was not the Bobby Witt Grand Slam. It was.
No, I'm saying there was one, right?
There was one.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're, I mean, obviously you can figure out what game I went to. It was a Mariners game that went to extra innings in the time where it just doesn't matter because the Royals aren't going to be able to do anything because they can't make the playoffs.
Yes.
Also, the place was entirely empty. I got a free T-shirt and a bunch of dollar hot dogs.
Did you just go sit down in like the front row?
No. So we had tickets in like a pretty like okay spot, and like that gave us access to a lot of areas that we like wanted to be at, like especially near the bathrooms and the hot dogs.
Yeah.
So we just kind of hung out
The
in our
prime hot dog seating.
yeah, we got prime hot dog seating.
That's good. That's
Um,
always important.
Yeah, and we were trying to go up the escalator, and I got on, and my girlfriend was behind me, and this old lady who was the usher basically stood and was like, "No one can go on the escalator, no one." And I was riding the escalator. I was like, "Why? Wait, why are you blocking her from getting on the escalator?" And it turns out is because no one's allowed to ride the escalator during the national anthem, and I was breaking the stadium rules.
No one's allowed to ride the escalator during the national anthem.
No. The ushers are supposed to stop people from riding the escalator during the national anthem.
So you have to walk on the stairs during.
No, they didn't turn it off. The usher, she was just blocking
No, I mean like you
everyone.
have to go take the. Okay.
Like I was on it, so I was breaking the rules. But
That's
apparently, you're not allowed to let people go up the escalator during the national anthem. Can I not ride an escalator and respect the
Just
United States at the
imagine,
same time?
Just blocking the toilets. No one's allowed to shit during the national anthem. Sir, you have to leave the stall right now.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, I guess we can just. So if you've been paying attention to the news at all, this is probably the biggest story to come out of Kansas.
we're no longer talking about the Royals anymore.
Yeah, that's what we call a hard transition.
Yeah.
This is probably the biggest story to come out of Kansas since Hunter Larkin, because I've actually seen like actual like national outlets reporting on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't really know how to start this. Effectively, last Friday, the 11th. So I guess at the time we're recording this on the 16th. So last Friday, the 11th, the Marion Police Department raided the Marion County Record, which is a local newspaper. And Marion is a small town of about 2,000 people, a little bit less, just north of Wichita, just west of Emporia.
In Marion County.
Yep, Marion County. It's so small they kind of just share the whole county resources and all the towns and stuff.
Yeah.
Not that big, but that kind of plays into this.
Is it like
whole
one of
thing.
those where it's like there's an official county seat, but the county's like government like stuff is just spread throughout the county?
Yeah.
If they even have like actual government buildings.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so this police department, there's about six members total. Well, there's a part-timer. So, they sent basically the entire police force to raid this guy's newspaper. It's this guy and his mother co-own it. They got some employees, but, it's just like a little local small newspaper, right? So it sounds really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
The entire police force is doing this tandem raid on the newspaper office and their house. Okay. So now the backstory about this whole thing, we're going to kind of do backstory and then I'll do like the actual story. The week before this happened, there was, I don't know what, some form of Republican event, I assume like a mayor race or whatever, just some form of like primary event being held at a small local restaurant.
Yeah.
Owned by one Carrie Newell. She kicked out the Marion County Record, who were there to report it for undisclosed reasons. Probably, I can assume she just probably does not like them because it's a small local town. They're the only real journalistic outlet. She's owns a restaurant. She's trying to get the restaurant started.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brand new restaurant. It doesn't even have a location on Google Maps yet. So you can imagine, for whatever reason, she doesn't like him. She kicks him out. A few days later, this guy who runs the newspaper gets a tip that this Carrie Newell lady had a DUI back in 2008, got her license suspended, and then was driving with a suspended license.
Is Carrie Newell who I think it is?
Who do you think Carrie Newell is?
The reincarnation of Hunter Larkin, our favorite weird Kansas Republican ghoul.
I've been trying to find a connection. I haven't found one so far, but they do live close by, and they do apparently drive under the influence. But yeah, no, the Marion County Record receives this tip, and then they obviously, they're journalists. They're like, well, this is kind of interesting. These guys just kicked us out. They were driving with a suspended license. They're a small business owner in our small town. They just opened up a restaurant. They're trying to get a liquor license. This would impact their ability to get a liquor license. So the first thing they do is they verify if this is correct. They haven't said what the newspaper hasn't said what was sent, but I presume it was a copy of their driver's license or something, because they were able to go on the Kansas Department of Revenue website and check if you have a suspended license or whatnot, check like kind of your driving history, DUI, which I also tried to do, and you need the license number. So I presume in some way or fashion they had the driver's license number for Carrie Newell, because that's what you have to have, which obviously I don't have her license, so I can't look that up. So they get that tip, they look that up, and then they report it to the police because they verify this is actually real, this is actually information. And the newspaper decides this isn't noteworthy enough. We're going to report this to the police because somebody, we don't know who, gave us this information. It's obviously private information, and we'll just tell the police about it. Let them take care of it. Because if she was driving with a suspended license, that's the police's problem. They can do whatever. Plus, it was 2008 that this was from, so it's not really that relevant of a story yet. Okay, so there you go. That's the story.
So it seems pretty like cut and dry, like rural Kansas type deal, where there's just a person who's trying to start a business who made mistakes in the past, and somehow, some way, someone gave the license or license number to the newspaper, and they didn't do anything with it other than give it to the police, which nothing seems out of the ordinary other than receiving the license number, but they told the police that they
and if you're a newspaper and somebody sends you like bank account information, criminal things, that's what you do. You send it to the police.
Yes,
that's what like the BTK and all that stuff. He's sending like letters to the police or to the newspaper, the Wichita Eagle, so they send it to the police and like, hey, what do we do? That's just what you do.
Or the Pentagon Papers. Yeah.
So then a week later, the police raid, as we said earlier, the newspaper's office. They raid the newspaper owner's house. And they seize his computers.
Why did they decide to raid the house?
Well, see, he committed identity theft, according to the police. That was what was on the search warrant, at least. They charged him with identity theft. And so they were able to seize all relevant materials to the identity theft, as in any computers it might have been on, anything like that. So, the Marion County Record now, Friday the 11th, has had their offices raided, their house raided, all their electronics have been seized, any flash drives, any passwords. So, their sales computer's gone, just anything that might have potentially had this information on it. Now, as we've kind of
even if you didn't receive a license number, I think it's potentially possible to find someone's records, especially if you committed a crime in public from 2008, through records, unless it was
it was a public website. That was part of it. Was they were charged, I believe, with some measure of. I don't have the search warrant pulled up, but it was some measure of identity theft and also like illegally accessing materials, which was the Department of Revenue website, which is publicly available. Like they didn't hack in anything, which is what the allegation sounds like. Now, identity theft law in the state of Kansas, if you're not fully acclimated with that.
We have the law up, everyone.
Yeah, it's a 21-6107. I don't know how to say it. like it's like Kansas statute or whatever. It's like section 21, I think. Anyways, so it's effectively, I'm just going to read this real quick. Identity theft is obtaining, possessing, transferring, using, selling, or purchasing any personal identifying information or document containing the same belonging to or issued to another person with the intent to defraud that person or anyone else in order to receive any benefit, or misrepresent that person in order to subject that person to economic or bodily harm. And then identity fraud is using or supplying the information person knows to be false in order to obtain a document containing any personal identifying information, or altering, amending, counterfeiting, making, manufacture, or otherwise replicating any document containing personal identifying information with the intent to deceive. Identity theft is it's a not a felony, it's a misdemeanor unless you do fraud, in which case it is severity level 8. I don't know what severity level 8 is, but it's presumably higher than severity level 5. So effectively, basically, just if you acquire those documents or whatever. Now, getting sent those documents and then forwarding to them to the police is not a violation of this, because there is the thing there that you have to have intent
to deceive.
Yeah, intent to deceive. You have to actually intend to misrepresent that person or subject that person to bodily harm, which and receiving an email and then forwarding that email to the police is not a violation of.
It's almost like if you witness any crime, you can't be charged with that crime because you're a witness to it. And as long as you use the proper steps and inform the police,
yes,
there shouldn't be any issue with that. Unless there's a massive cabal of people who are all trying to cover up their DUIs.
Yes. So, okay. So, yeah, she's charged with the DUI. They've now raided this newspaper. They've effectively shut it down. And that's where he starts to get the owner. I don't know how, but I don't have his name pulled up. I can't find it. Give me 1 second. I will find it. I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, the owner, he basically gets in contact with local news resources like the Wichita Eagle, KSHB 41 Action News, and Kansas City, basically just larger outlets, or the more relevant one, the closer to his place, Kansas Reflector, who is the first ones to break this story. They're the ones who break the story. They're the ones who are the first ones to report. And Eric Meyer, who's the owner, and his mother, Joan Meyer, just kind of actually start getting the news out. And this is where you, listener, might have heard about this, because the New York Times picks up on this, AP picks up on this. For whatever reason, journalists across the country don't particularly like when there's a, random raid to shut down a local newspaper. They're not big fans of that.
Especially in it is to a New York Times reporter in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Kansas.
Because, what this looks like is a police department trying to shut down a journalist they don't like. Which is, arguably exactly what is happening. Anyways, so they get that. They start to push back, right? They request, according to Kansas law also, when you get a search warrant, you get a signed affidavit that has to be filed with the county clerk along with the application. And then that's when you get the search warrant issued. It's signed off by a judge. It has to be dated and signed. And then if it's requested, the affidavit has to be released, and they have a 10-day limit to basically, they have to release it within 10 days. They have to redact everything or whatever.
Yeah.
And they immediately request that, right? Because it's like, okay, why did we get a search warrant? Where the day of, they were basically like, oh, we don't have an affidavit filed in the system. Like, there's no affidavit. But they do have the search warrant, which is the same as the search warrant application, which is kind of weird because normally the application would look different, but it looks like it's the exact same thing. The same document. They didn't file an application and a search warrant. They just had a search warrant, which is kind of weird. And there's no affidavit at this time. There might be an affidavit later, but I haven't seen any reporting of there being one, and I haven't seen any reporting. Granted, the legal side, their attorneys gotten involved, and I think their attorneys made them kind of stop giving out a lot of this information, the newspaper. But yeah. Yeah, it's starting to become a national news story, identity theft, and then we get more stuff trickling out. Like the police chief is new to this community, right?
I believe he did come from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department.
Yeah, Gideon Cody,
which is weird to go from a major, well-funded police department to go be the chief of a department of 6 people.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess
It-
his
it-
story is he's kind of like retiring from the big city. You know,
if you really want to be a police chief, I understand.
Yeah.
It's just weird to leave a major city police department and move to a county police department in the middle of Kansas.
Yeah.
3.5 hours away, because in order to be a KCPD officer, he had to be a resident of Jackson County, or a resident of the city of Kansas City, Missouri itself,
Yes.
in any of its outlying counties. So he's moving from potentially Jackson, Platte, Clay County, wherever he was living in Missouri, 3.5 hours away, potentially 4 hours away, to Marion County, Kansas, which could be night and day compared to living in Kansas City, to go be a police chief of a 6-person police department.
Yes. Which, again, there's nothing... I mean, people do things. People do things.
You're allowed to do weird
You're allowed
career
to do
shifts.
things if you want. If you want to go live in a small town. You know, maybe.
I've applied to jobs in Antarctica before.
Yeah. But there's nothing weird about that. But there is specifically something weird about the timing of... The Marion County Record has come out and said they were starting a story on their brand new chief of police who came from Kansas City, you know, and they were saying... They haven't released this because obviously they were in the middle of writing a story about this, and then their computers got seized, and presumably they want to publish the story they were writing and not just like speculate and let other people have the story they were writing, like KSHB 41. They probably want to be the ones to publish it.
Yeah.
So obviously the story hasn't come out because they don't have access to their research materials, and I don't know what the story will be. But regardless of that, they were writing a story on Gideon Cody, and they had started to contact people in Kansas City, you know, like the HR manager, other employees of the Kansas City Police Department, that, you know, like regular journalistic stuff, asking him questions. Hey, who is this guy? He's our chief of police. Now, presumably, this is speculative, Gideon Cody might have heard about this. Presumably, some of the people they contacted probably knew Gideon, and maybe after they get a call from a local reporter, they might text Gideon, hey, this guy called asking about you, you know, whatever. Now, again, this is speculative, but I think maybe if you get a call like that, and maybe there's something you don't want impacting your current job or potentially future jobs, you might look at that and go, hey, we got this tip from these guys. They have this business owner we don't like's information. Maybe we can just justify, you know, shutting down the newspaper. You know, technically they have. If you don't read into the law anymore, technically they have possession of somebody else's identity documents. So technically they might have committed identity fraud. Maybe, but I mean, it's a small town newspaper. Nobody's going to care about them, right? Speculatively,
Yeah.
This is all just me. So
speculatively, nothing would become of note if you just simply raid and take all their computers.
Yeah, because they don't have any computers. Their sales computers is gone. They're all of a sudden not able to make a living. So, yeah.
I mean, you listener, have you heard of Marion County before? No.
I may be on the like weather.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I've looked up the Kansas license plate code.
I think I get them confused with Marion, which is a different place.
Which is a Johnson County suburb.
Yeah, Marion, Kansas.
I would have probably seen it on the list of Johnson County names for license plates. For people who don't know, fun fact about Kansas, your county is posted in a little 2-letter code on the corner of your license plate. So if you're ever curious on where people are from, you can learn the codes and figure out where people are from. And I've looked up the list a few times.
Yes.
But I haven't made note of Marion County's note. That's a complete sidebar.
Like, man, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what this thing is made out of.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, another sidebar into federal law. Okay. So you have the Privacy Protection Act of 1980. So the Pentagon Papers, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're basically somebody leaked documents to, you know, New York Times. What was it, New York Times or Washington Post? Washington Post was the Nixon stuff. New York Times was the Pentagon Papers.
I think Deep Throat was the Washington Post.
Yeah, because New York Times sued the federal government. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
The
Pentagon Papers.
Sorry, has the Chicago Tribune been involved in a major scandal? Because I know like the Boston Globe's been involved in
Yeah.
one.
The Chicago Tribune, the Tribune
Yeah.
building's got all those like little bits and pieces of different buildings in the outside.
Yeah.
Because when they would send their reporters to like Egypt to report on something, they would take like a piece of the pyramid and then they'd put it in their building. So they got in a lot of trouble for some of that because they got some things that they weren't supposed to. Because a reporter just kind of like pocketed a rock from like the Great Wall of China and stuff, or took a piece of the World Trade Center and stuff.
So the Boston Globe has Spotlight, the New York Times has the Pentagon Papers, the Washington Post has the Watergate, and the Chicago Tribune has stealing random artifacts from around the world.
Yes. Yes. Like pieces of the Taj Mahal. Like literally almost every single major like historical building, we've got a piece of it in their wall that you can just kind of walk up and touch. And they didn't, I don't think, maybe the World Trade Center one is the only one that they got permission for. Maybe. But yeah, they had a piece of the Berlin Wall too. That was cool. They probably got permission for that one as well.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone wanted it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They were kind of tossing that one out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Federal Privacy Protection Act of 1980 effectively came into effect after the Pentagon Papers and effectively solidified in law what the Pentagon Papers did, which was they illegally got documents sent to them by a whistleblower about the Vietnam War, but the New York Times then published those documents. And the federal government basically sued, tried to arrest them, tried to shut down the publication because it's like, look, you received these documents that are classified illegally, so you can't publish them. Supreme Court says, okay, you can go after the guy who leaked them because they committed a crime, but the New York Times just received these documents, and they believed it was in the public's interest to know about this. Like, they don't have any obligation to tell the federal government, hey, we're going to publish this story damning of you, because they have a First Amendment right to publish stuff, If I throw a letter in their window, they can publish that letter. They don't have to give it back to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I throw the letter in their window and I'm like jaywalking, I can still get caught for that, right? Like, I'm the one committing the crime, not the New York Times, by receiving the documentation. Yeah. So effectively, Privacy Protection Act puts that into place, and it also puts into place that you can't like just raid a newsroom.
So
you have there's another level, right? A normal search warrant does not apply when it's like Kansas City Star, right? You have to get a specific subpoena, which has like a slightly higher level of requirement. You can't have a judge basically just sign off on a Friday evening on a search warrant for a newsroom. You have to get a subpoena from like a higher court and like specifically detail this is exactly what we're looking for and stuff, because this act also doesn't protect the newsroom if the newsroom is actually participating in the crime, right?
So what you're saying is, if I steal someone's ID and email it to my local newspaper, I have committed a crime, but my newspaper receiving this information, they are not committing a crime by receiving that email and looking at it.
I'm speculating.
None of us are
is
lawyers.
Speculative. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a newsman. I don't know what I'm talking about. But if I were to be Carrie Newell's husband, who is currently divorcing Carrie Newell, and if I were to send a newspaper that my wife just kicked out documents that would make her look bad,
that also might stop her from getting a pretty
liquor
profitable
license,
yes, which is a pretty
for her business. If I were to send her
business.
that, thinking, hey, this small local guy probably is mad at her, he's definitely likely to publish that, then potentially that would be a crime.
Yeah.
But being the newspaper and giving it to the police is not.
Man, I love when small-town Kansas drama becomes national news.
Yes, because that's my personal belief. I think Carrie Newell's husband is kind of the instigator, but I don't think, speculatively.
We are not accusing anyone of any crime.
I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm not even saying anything. I don't even know who these people are. This is all in Minecraft. But yeah, that's potentially what might have happened in this regard. But then the police took that and looked at it as we can shut down this newspaper that may or may not be doing a story on our police chief, or may not have done things. I don't know.
Who is who is the boss of 6 people, one of which is a part-time officer, which I can't imagine being a part-time police officer.
Yeah, but that's the only that is, and maybe there's some other things that will come out because this is a current ongoing story. But that is the only explanation for their actions that necessarily makes sense, because I don't know why you would go this far to violate law just to shut down a news place. I mean, it's not going to work. Like Wichita's right there. The Eagle, Kansas City's right there with Kansas City Star, KSHB 41, Fox 4, KMBC.
The Hutchison Post or whatever would probably catch on to that as well.
I mean, Salina, Emporia,
or a pretty big factor of these major like criminal conspiracies who might catch on to it is called the KBI.
Yeah, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, who, you don't even need to escalate to the federal level because Kansas, I'm not sure if every state has this, but Kansas does have another level of statewide policing other than just the highway patrol. They're an investigative body who, if you were to, say, commit identity fraud and you're a small local town who doesn't necessarily have the resources to investigate identity crime, that's why the KBI exists, is you can punt this to them.
So when you devote your entire county's police department to doing this investigation to potentially cover up some stuff, the state troopers can do the day-to-day work, and the KBI can investigate stuff like identity fraud or illegally seizing items from a reporter.
Yes. Which, by the way, so Jessica McMaster is the main reporter I've been using from KSHB 41 for all of this. She's terrific. She's been in Marion County. She's been driving there almost every day. Yeah. So definitely go to her Twitter, go to her reporting, all that stuff. We're going to link it below.
It is Jess McMaster KC on Twitter.
Yeah, we will link it below. She's been like incredible in this whole thing, just going down there, supporting them. They finally published a newspaper for the first time since the raid today. They managed to basically borrow some Hutchinson printers to print their newspaper. But anyways, so she tweeted out today, this is breaking, as of 12:37, that the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, after they took the case on Monday, decided, and I will quote here, "At present time, the investigation remains open. However, we have determined in collaboration with Marion County Attorney that the investigation will proceed independently without review or examination of any of the evidence seized on Friday, August 11th. We will work with the Marion County Record or their representative to coordinate the prompt return of all seized items. And once our investigation concludes, we will present findings to the Marion County Attorney for review." Effectively, they decided this is not worth our time. This is not actually a crime. We're going to give the Marion County Record all of their computer backs without even reviewing them. There's not even a review necessary. And the investigation is continuing because I believe they are investigating the police. I believe that is the only crime that has been committed, along with whoever sent the documents to the Marion County Record. Now, Matt.
Yeah.
For one, I don't know if this is relevant, but there was reporting that the judge who approved the search warrant on Friday night also has a history of DUI arrests. That sounds kind of, to me, not relevant. I don't know. I guess maybe it's maybe the angle for this is that she was maybe, she feels bad. She's had DUIs before, so she's, trying to help go after these reporters, these small town bullies.
Or to be completely honest, simplest solution, probably signing search warrants is the most boring part of being a judge. And you get a big stack and you're just like, what is this? Fine. Yeah. What is this? Fine. What is this? Fine. And just keep signing stuff.
Yeah. And she was appointed January 1st. She's barely been in the job. She's obviously, she's an established attorney and she's able to get a judgeship. So she's like no slouch, but I would almost guarantee that she did not actually probably pay that much attention to the search warrant, because I don't know how she would have possibly approved this if she had actually known or thought about it or read it.
Or probably read it as investigation of identity fraud. Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, identity fraud or whatever. Okay, yeah. They must have slam dunk evidence if they're coming to me for this. And she might not have realized, despite being a judge, that this one obscure law from 1980 makes it federally
or might have not realized that it was like the actual newspaper office, because it was probably, once again, like you got a big stack.
It was the newspaper office and the house. Yeah. So she might have just seen the house, but I don't know. It's all speculative. But okay, so
or it said raid this person's office and house.
Yeah. I don't know if this federal law is a misdemeanor or a felony, because I don't remember. But
we're also not lawyers. We are not professionals.
Not a lawyer, but okay, if I rob a bank, and I'm robbing a bank, right? I'm committing a crime, and you're in the line and you have a heart attack, and you die. I didn't touch you, right?
Yeah.
I'm just robbing the bank. but you died probably because I'm robbing the bank, you can get charged with manslaughter or murder or, anything like that because I indirectly caused your death.
Yes.
The stress of my action influenced your heart attack in some way, so you're guilty.
Yes.
Like that's how law works. So, Joan is his mother, who co-owns the newspaper, who lives with him. He moved in with her to help because she's 98 years old.
Yeah.
Died Saturday, the day after the raid. Yes, she died of a heart attack the day after her newspaper and her home were raided by the police. I am not saying that. I'm speculating
that the heart attack was induced.
I'm not saying it was caused by anything. I'm not saying anyone's at fault, but I'm saying if you're in the commission of a federal crime, i.e., raiding a newspaper office illegally in violation of the, Privacy Protection Act of 1980, and somebody dies because of your actions, I'm just saying that in other cases that I know how it works is if you're in the commission of a crime and somebody dies, even if you didn't kill that person, the police officer who was shot to death in the Quick Trip the other day is another example from Kansas. Basically, two people stole a car. They are driving the car crazily, whatever. Police officers are in pursuit. They crash the car into a Quick Trip, go into it's a man and a woman. They each go into the respective bathrooms. The man has a gun. Police officers go in. The man shoots one of the officers to death. The other officer shoots him to death, right?
That was a Fairway cop, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The woman is being charged for the officer's murder. She was in a different bathroom, but because it was in the commission of a crime, she stole a car, she was running in, and somebody died. Guy shot the officer. She's guilty because her actions led to that person's death, whether she directly caused it or not.
Well, she's not guilty until
allegedly
a court of law finds her guilty. Yeah. But
example
she is
wise,
being charged with a crime because the legal system determines that.
Yeah, this is why we're not good reporters. Yeah, I mean, she's not guilty of anything yet. She deserves her day in court, innocent until proven guilty.
But is being charged with the.
She is being charged with it. Yes.
Yes, because she was involved in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, apropos of nothing. If you were to be committing a federal crime and somebody were to die as a result of that crime you're committing, which is a flagrant violation, if it were to happen that way, then you could be held responsible. Everybody involved in the commission of that crime could be held responsible. Everybody who, illegally raided an office could potentially be held responsible.
But so this hypothetical scenario we're talking about, that if you haven't picked up on, is saying that maybe the police department of Marion County, hypothetically...
This is all just my speculation. I am not a reporter. This is not a legal entity. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving financial advice, but...
Yeah. But they are police officers, so will they ever be charged with this? Probably not.
Yeah, this is all based off of publicly available information and reporting by multiple news agencies. That's where I'm basing all of this from. This is all just factual information I'm reporting based off of other people's work.
Yes.
So,
thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica Master. I thought about messaging to see if she wanted to come on, but she's way too busy for that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more important institutions that isn't a podcast.
Incredibly busy right now with everything.
Yeah, I am sure there are more important people than a random podcast that focuses on Kansas City to talk to her.
But so far it's been going okay. They've gotten the computers back. The attorney has it. They're going to make a copy, and then they're going to have a forensic team, an independent forensic investigator, go through the computer and basically just see if anything was modified.
Ooh, I'm curious if anything was modified.
Mm-hmm. So the Marion County Record is basically paying. Well, I guess they're not probably paying. I think
is there a GoFundMe?
I think the ACLU took it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're basically rolling the whole thing. ACLU and I think the New York Times basically just bankrolling the whole thing. But yeah, they're effectively going to see if anything was modified, deleted, or removed, or whatever, and then go from there because they could potentially sue. I don't know, maybe. but it's also the police, so I guess we'll be
Yeah.
the ones paying for that if they do so.
Also, like, how much money is even in the Marion County government coffers?
About their annual budget's about $36 million. So they've taken about $12 million in tax revenue. They spent about $700,000 in the police, $550,000 on personnel. So that's how much. There's 7 members.
Yeah, well,
There's the sheriff, the undersheriff, 3 police officers, one of whom is part time, and there's Gideon Cody, who's the chief of police. So,
and then 1 administrative staff.
yes, and so they get $500,000. So you can presume they probably make about like $80,000 a year ish.
Yeah.
Probably the sheriff and the chief of police probably get paid closer to like 120 ish,
Yeah,
based off of the publicly available budget information I looked up last night.
And then the part-time guy and the administrative people
Yeah,
are probably
it's just
making
probably-
like less.
I will say they do spend about $70,000 on vehicles every single year. The past 3 years, I don't know what's up with that, but apparently they bought a brand new car every single year.
The police department or the county in general?
Yeah, the police department.
Well, I mean, buying a new cruiser, I don't know how much Ford's charging these days for those Explorers, but
I guess that would make sense. I just thought it was interesting because it's like I figure there's 6 members that probably only have like 3 cars, but they're buying a new one every single year for the past 3 years.
unless they're trying to completely replace their fleet.
Yeah, they might be doing that.
Slowly, because Ford's charging $70,000 for a Explorer police package.
I guess they don't really do like used like other like the Sedgwick County police. Sedgwick County can't give Marion County their used Explorers.
Yeah.
Because that just doesn't work like that. Even though you'd figure if it's got 100,000 miles on it, Marion's only so big, so they can't possibly put that many more miles on it compared to patrolling Wichita. Right?
From my understanding of police vehicles, the main thing you got to look out for is idle time, because your engine is, unless you're a hybrid, your engine's still running.
Yeah,
the pistons are still moving while you're idling.
On, yeah.
So basically, when you see your local cops sitting in a parking lot for 6 hours, that's an exaggeration. I'm sure they probably do more driving than that. They're still putting wear and tear on that engine, sitting in the parking lot with the car running.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but
yeah.
Anyways, okay. This is obviously a changing story.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow our Twitter account. I'll probably be retweeting. I've been very invested in this. I'll probably be retweeting anything if there's new updates or whatnot. We might like tweet some stuff out. Definitely follow Jessica McMasters if you're interested. She does pretty good reporting here, but it is very local.
Yeah.
The New York Times, is kind of like a national news outlet. Most of ours here are just kind of local, and then they aggregate stuff from the companies that own them. Like the Casey Star is not a local company. It's owned by the McClatchley Group, who just kind of aggregates stuff from their other stuff. So it's not that good. Definitely follow that if you're interested. We might, if there's anything cool that happens, we might do a part 2 to this one. Like if the police department gets, like racketeering charges or something cool like that. Or I was reading about like the Rampart scandal in Los Angeles because I was looking up RICO charges apropos of nothing that happened this week.
Yeah. There's totally not a reason to look up RICO charges at all, especially if you are curious in Georgia state law and RICO.
Yeah, no reason in particular.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want updates like that, we might do an episode 2 if something happens with like the KBI's investigation or whatever. But we'll keep you posted on our Twitter.
We will. That is at Clio History.
Yeah.
And you can email us at cliohistorypodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to have a bit of input, we have some 2 potential episodes that I am juggling around in my mind.
You do.
One, we have a man who is decently trained in statistics and economics to talk about tax structures.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
If you're curious in that and exploring tax structures and ways to manipulate financial budgets in order to incentivize more transit usage, we have that episode. Or we have Casey Mob Stories Part 3.
Yes.
If you're curious, you can DM us on Twitter. I think our DMs are open, or you can email us.
I will say, for whatever reason, the true crime, like the Casey Mob stories, are very popular with the ladies in our statistics. That's what I'll say.
Don't tell.
What I'll say is, This is also a true crime story potentially.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you like it, follow local journalists.
And please stop emailing saying that we sound the same. We don't sound the same.
We don't sound the same. We're two different people.
Yeah, we are two different people. Stop emailing us.
Please. Okay. Well.
All right. That's it.
the episode.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. Bye.